One of the biggest reasons that brands struggle to scale on Meta isn't budgets, isn't targeting, it's creative. And I know with all this Andromeda talk, there's a lot of uncertainty on, okay, right, how much creative do I really need? You've probably had a lot of success with a couple of creatives a month over the last couple of years. And yeah, now we're just seeing the amount of volume that everybody's talking about in terms of what needed to succeed. And it is true. We're definitely seeing it have a huge impact on the CPMs if you actually really dial in the creative volume, and it is actually just a recipe for success. So got my notes here. So yeah, obviously most people will be familiar with the old way of Meta. You could build audiences, dial in interest, run a few ads for weeks, and you could scale up ads that were working really well and just pump a lot of budget into them. Now what's happened is, look, just naturally consumer reaction to the platform has changed. People expect different things when they're on the platform. It's not as direct response as it probably was 6-7 years ago, and it's just a new thing. It's a new technology, it's a new platform, and we gotta adapt with the time. So what is required off the back of that, and I think also users' attention span has just drastically decreased. I mentioned it before that I'm off social media, all reels, TikToks. The only thing I am on is YouTube. But anyway, what we're going to talk about here is creative and how many creatives you actually need based on your budget. So with Andromeda, as we've kind of spoken about in previous videos, your creative is the new targeting. The message, the visuals, the hooks, the angle, where your product is, who's using it, what they look like, what they're wearing, what language they use, what captions you have. It all is data points for people to look, or if it's for Meta to decide on who gets shown and who's going to convert your ads. The reality of creative fatigue, ads don't necessarily die because people hate them. They die because the same user sees them too many times, so your frequency is too high, engagement is dropping, and the system stops pushing them. And you have to always remember, Meta wants people to stay on the platform as long as possible. So if your creative is rubbish, then it's not going to want to show it to more people. Yes, you can pay to technically have it done, but it wants to show good ads to people, so you will get lower CPMs with the more innovative and more variety you have in your content. Every great ad usually fatigues in 7 to 21 days at scale. That's just our data, and that's just what we see. So what we're saying is, if you're not replacing them consistently, performance will drop, and that's just been proven on our accounts. And we just gotta always focus on putting in that creative variety and making it work from a financial perspective. So for brands trying to scale consistently, this is just a benchmark. I know obviously it's going to vary hugely on a budget perspective, but I think 10 a week is kind of where a lot of the brands that we're seeing, like 10 really strong ones on a weekly basis, is what you kind of want to be aiming for. That can scale drastically up and drastically down depending on budgets and kind of game plan. But lower spend brands can start slower and obviously ramp up. And it doesn't necessarily mean expensive shoots, but it does mean a volume of angles and formats and hooks and, like I said, environments and people. So what counts as real new creative? It's not just new colors or captions, or even I don't think a headline is kind of pushing it as much as we want to. We want it to be different hooks. Different pain points is important, different product benefits, different creators or different faces, and then different formats. So UGC, talking to camera, demos, testimonials, lifestyle. So one product should have dozens of angles over time, over the course of a year or so, or a couple months. Why more creative lowers costs? So more creative equals more data. Like I said, Meta's happy with that. Each ad is going to teach the algorithm a couple of things: who's converting, what message are they converting, what format do they engage with, and off the back of that, Meta reward you and your creative with lower CPMs, better delivery in terms of like your CPAs, and more scale. So brands with high creative output almost always outperform brands with perfect ad structures. I don't even know if there is a definition of perfect ad structures anymore, to be honest. So the biggest mistakes that I see is, and I do have my notes here in terms of different kind of capacities from a creative perspective, but the first biggest mistake is they don't appreciate how important creative is. Maybe they had a bit of luck with how they've scaled up to date, but to get to that next level, creative is probably your bottleneck. And a rough rule of thumb, probably for every 30 to 50k in ad spend per month, you're probably looking at 20 to 40 plus creatives needed to be added in on a monthly basis. So how you need more creative? CPMs are going to be a huge one. And even sometimes I'll look at auditing accounts and I'm shocked that even CPMs are this high, but they have gotten high. In order to perform and in order to show your ad to a certain amount of people, and it doesn't really matter if you're going for conversion, video views, or engagement or whatever. It doesn't matter what objective. That's what I was thinking of. You choose. The CPMs are still pretty high. So that's a big thing. Frequency will rise, your ROAS will drop, and winning ads will suddenly die. Almost always a creative volume issue. So, simple creative system to aim for. Each week go for 3 to 5 new hooks, 3 to 5 new angles, 2 to 3 formats, and quickly becomes 10 to 15 different variations. So, on leading social, if I was to kind of give you a little bit of a rundown of kind of creative iteration system, every 2 weeks you want to really evaluate what's happening within the business. Identify what creatives have worked the best, create different blueprints/variations of those, get them in the pipeline, get them created, whether it be with different creators or whether it be different environments or what have you. Try to identify the top 20% and try to continuously scale them on a monthly basis, and that goes for static UGC, podcast style videos, high production. We're recording a couple of skits at the moment for some brands. So yeah, just constantly build out that creative iteration process. Work closely with your team to build out that pipeline. Understand I'll put up a screenshot of this actually, create a diagram, pie chart of what kind of hooks you're testing or what placements you're testing, and build out that system and you should be on your way to the races, scaling up. So if you want to scale your spend and you want to scale creative as well, get in touch. I'll leave my calendar below. I'll also leave a link to our newsletter if you'd like to have a look at that. We send newsletters out weekly. Thank you for watching. Please do like, comment and subscribe. I'll answer any questions you have in a video first off, if it's good enough, and if you leave it down below. And my name's Leighton. Gura Mila Mahagat.